Why would she give that to you? The question cut through the ballroom so sharply that even the string quartet seemed to miss a note. Olivia Harper froze with a silver tray balanced against her hip and a white apron tied neatly over her black dress. A folded piece of paper sat half-hidden inside the apron pocket. Across the room, crystal wine glasses glittered beneath chandeliers, worth more than everything she owned. The little girl was crying, and nobody in that mansion seemed to understand why. 3 hours earlier, Olivia had been standing in the service corridor behind Ashford Manor, smoothing wrinkles from her apron with hands roughened by years of carrying trays and scrubbing tables. The smell of butter, roasted garlic, and expensive champagne drifted through the swinging kitchen doors. Beyond them waited 200 guests, reporters, donors, politicians, and people who smiled for photographs before forgetting the names of the people who served them. Olivia knew that world well, not because she belonged to it, because she cleaned up after it. At 32, she had mastered the art of becoming invisible. Move quietly, speak politely, never stand where wealthy people wanted to look. She adjusted the sleeve of her cardigan, pulling it lower over her wrist. The bruise underneath had already begun turning dark purple. Most people never noticed things like that. They saw her weight first, then the apron, then whatever assumptions came with both. "You're wonderful with children," Amelia Cross said as she appeared beside her. Her smile was flawless, warm, camera-ready. "That's such a rare gift." Olivia recognized the tone immediately. Compliments from Amelia always felt like flowers wrapped around a knife. "Thank you," Olivia replied. Amelia's gaze drifted briefly toward the sleeve covering Olivia's wrist. Just a second. Then it vanished. The guests love seeing staff who genuinely care. It makes the family look compassionate. Olivia said nothing. Silence had become a survival skill. Amelia's smile widened. "Just remember your place tonight." Then she walked away. By 7 o'clock, the birthday celebration was in full swing. Music drifted beneath the vaulted ceilings. Flashbulbs popped. Donors praised charitable initiatives they barely understood. At the center of it all sat Isabella Ashford, 10 years old, daughter of one of the most feared men on the East Coast. She rarely spoke. Most guests considered her shy. Olivia knew better. Some children stopped talking when nobody listened long enough. From across the room, Olivia noticed Isabella sitting alone, despite being surrounded by people. Her small fingers moved across a blue sketchbook resting in her lap. Drawing. Always drawing. Then something strange happened. Isabella looked up. Not at her father. Not at Amelia. Not at the guests competing for her attention. At Olivia. Their eyes met. The girl immediately closed the sketchbook. 10 minutes later, the traditional ceremony began. A family heirloom bracelet was presented on a velvet cushion. Every year Isabella chose one person she trusted most. The room practically leaned forward. Amelia was already smiling. Cameras adjusted. Donors whispered predictions. Mafia boss Gabriel Ashford stood near the head table, silent as stone, watching everything and revealing nothing. Isabella stepped forward. Past Amelia. Past the teachers. Past the security detail. Past her own father. Straight toward Olivia. The room went silent. Complete silence. The dangerous kind. Olivia barely had time to set down her tray before Isabella pressed something folded into her apron pocket and wrapped both arms around her waist. Then the girl began to cry. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quiet tears. The kind that hurt worse. Olivia instinctively lowered her head and whispered, "It's okay." But Isabella shook her head against her apron. As Olivia carefully pulled the folded paper from her pocket, Gabriel Ashford took one step forward. Not because of the crying. Not because his daughter had ignored everyone else. Because for a fraction of a second, when Olivia unfolded the paper, he saw the corner of a drawing. A red hand, and what looked disturbingly like a security key card. The drawing disappeared into Olivia's apron pocket almost as quickly as it had appeared. Around her, conversations restarted in uneven waves, like people were giving themselves permission to breathe again. Crystal glasses clinked. Someone laughed too loudly. The string quartet resumed. But the room felt different now. Tighter. Watchful. Isabella remained pressed against Olivia's side until a nanny gently guided her away. The little girl never looked at Amelia. Not once. Olivia noticed that. She noticed a lot of things. Years of working dining rooms had taught her that people revealed themselves when they thought nobody mattered enough to see them. She bent to retrieve her tray. Children become attached to whoever brings them dessert, Amelia said pleasantly to the nearest donors. It's sweet, really? A few guests chuckled. Her smile never slipped. Olivia has always been wonderful at making herself useful. The words sounded kind. They landed like stones. Olivia kept her face neutral. Silence was safer. Across the ballroom, Gabriel Ashford accepted a glass of bourbon from a waiter and never drank it. His eyes moved once toward Olivia's apron pocket, then toward Amelia, then away again. Nothing about his expression changed. 10 minutes later, Olivia escaped into the service corridor carrying empty champagne flutes. The noise of the party faded behind the swinging doors. Stainless steel counters reflected fluorescent light. Dishwashers hummed. Someone rolled a cart of dirty plates past her. For the first time all evening, she unfolded the drawing completely. The red hand was worse up close. A child had pressed the crayon so hard the wax had torn through the paper in places. Beside it was a rectangle colored black. Not a door. Not exactly. A keycard. Olivia felt her stomach tighten, because she had seen that symbol before. Not in a drawing. On an actual access card hanging from a silver lanyard. She folded the paper again just as her phone vibrated. One new bank alert. Her checking account balance had increased by $5,000. Olivia stared at the screen. No explanación. No employer notificación. No deposit source. Just money. Her heartbeat slowed instead of quickened. Because she knew exactly what that meant. Someone wanted something buried. She immediately opened the banking app and initiated a reversal request. The transfer failed. A second notification appeared. Private donation. No reply required. Olivia closed the phone. A minute later, she heard heels approaching. Amelia. There you are. Warm voice. Perfect posture. Expensive perfume. I wanted to thank you for handling Isabella so gracefully tonight. Olivia met her eyes. I didn't handle anything. Of course you did. Amelia smiled. Some people simply have a gift for staying in the background. She glanced briefly toward Olivia's apron. There it was again. That tiny flicker of attention. Gone in less than a second. You should enjoy the bonus, Amelia added softly. Good people deserve appreciation. Olivia's fingers tightened around the folded drawing. I didn't accept it. For the first time, Amelia's smile paused. Barely. Then it returned. Everyone accepts something eventually. She walked away. Olivia stood motionless until the corridor emptied. Then she slipped the drawing beside her old phone in the apron pocket and looked at the timestamp on the deposit notification. 8:17 p.m. The transfer had been made 3 minutes before Isabella handed her the drawing. Somebody had paid her before they knew whether she would stay silent. And that meant someone already knew what was inside the pocket of her apron. Somebody had paid her before they knew whether she would stay silent. The thought followed Olivia back onto the ballroom floor like a shadow she couldn't shake. The music sounded softer now. The laughter farther away. She moved between tables carrying a tray of untouched champagne, but her attention stayed fixed on details most people ignored. A smudged lipstick mark on a crystal flute. A donor checking his watch every 90 seconds. Amelia speaking to 3 board members while keeping one hand lightly over her phone screen. Olivia had spent years surviving by noticing things. Tonight, every instinct she possessed was whispering the same warning. Something was wrong. Near the stage, Isabella sat alone again with the blue sketchbook open across her knees. She wasn't drawing now. She was watching. Not her father. Not Amelia. Olivia. The little girl looked frightened. The kind of frightened children wore. When they knew something adults kept pretending wasn't there. Olivia glanced away first. A few minutes later, Gabriel Ashford appeared beside a banquet table as silently as a man stepping out of fog. He didn't block her path, didn't raise his voice, didn't even look directly at her at first. His gaze rested on the tray, then the folded napkins, then finally her face. "My daughter likes you." Olivia forced a small smile. "She's a good kid." Gabriel studied her for a second. "You said kid, sir. Most people say child. Or Isabella." "You said kid." Olivia wasn't sure what answer he wanted. "I used to work with children." His expression didn't change. "Used to. A long time ago." Silence settled between them. Heavy. Deliberate. Not hostile. Worse. Evaluating. Then his eyes drifted toward her apron pocket. "You looked upset after reading that drawing." Olivia's fingers tightened slightly around the tray. "It was just a picture." "Was it?" Before she could answer, Amelia appeared at Gabriel's side with perfect timing. "There you are." Her smile was bright enough for cameras. "The mayor would love a moment before he leaves." She touched Gabriel's arm lightly, then turned toward Olivia. "And poor Olivia has probably had a long night. These events can be exhausting." The emphasis on poor landed exactly where intended. Tired waitress. Emotional waitress. Overwhelmed waitress. Easier to dismiss that way. Olivia saw it. Gabriel saw it too. Neither commented. Amelia's smile remained flawless. "You should head home early when we're finished. Get some rest." Olivia nodded politely. "I'll finish my shift." Something flickered behind Amelia's eyes. Gone instantly. The smallest crack. Later, while clearing dessert plates near the service station, Olivia finally found a moment to examine the drawing again. This time she noticed something she had missed before. The red hand, the black rectangle, and beneath both, written in shaky block letters, 817. Her pulse stumbled. She looked immediately at the bank alert still saved on her old phone. Deposit received. 8:17 p.m. The exact same time. Olivia stared at the numbers, then at the drawing, then back again. Children guessed shapes, colors, faces. They didn't guess timestamps. A cold sensation crawled slowly up her spine, because for the first time all night, the drawing no longer looked like a frightened child's imagination. It looked like a record. It looked like a record. The realization stayed with Olivia long after the last slice of birthday cake had been served. She slipped the folded drawing behind the clear case of her old phone and returned to work. But every time she passed a mirrored wall or polished window, she caught herself checking the time again. 8:17. The drawing. The deposit. The exact same minute. Coincidences existed. She knew that. What unsettled her was that Isabella had never been a child who drew random things. Near 10 o'clock, a staff member approached with a quiet request. "Ms. Cross wants you upstairs." The words immediately tightened something in Olivia's chest. Amelia never requested. She summoned. The private dining room on the second floor overlooked the ballroom through floor-to-ceiling glass. Below, donors continued drinking champagne beneath chandeliers, while a jazz trio replaced the string quartet. Up here, everything felt colder, more expensive, more controlled. A long walnut table stretched across the room. Board members sat along one side, family advisors along the other. Olivia recognized attorneys, trustees, and charity directors whose names appeared in magazines. She also recognized something else. Isabella was not there. Neither were any children. Amelia stood at the head of the table holding a thin folder. "Olivia." Her smile was warm enough to melt steel. "Thank you for coming." Nobody offered Olivia a chair. She remained standing beside the door in her apron while everyone else sat comfortably in custom leather seats. The imbalance was subtle, deliberate. "We're finalizing tonight's event documentation," Amelia explained. "Routine paperwork. Nothing complicated." She slid a single sheet across the table. "Just sign here." Olivia lowered her eyes. The page wasn't routine at all. It was a written incident statement. According to the document, Isabella had become emotional after accidentally knocking over a display earlier that evening. Staff intervention had been required. No unusual behavior. No concerns. No mention of the drawing. No mention of the crying. No mention of Olivia. A board member adjusted his cufflinks. It's just housekeeping. Another offered a sympathetic smile. Children create misunderstandings all the time. An older woman near the window added gently, "You seem like a very caring employee. This protects everyone." The room felt smaller with every sentence. Olivia looked down at her apron, at the flour stain near the pocket, at the folded drawing hidden beneath her phone. Then she looked back at the paper. This isn't what happened. Silence followed. Not loud. Not dramatic. Worse, the kind that makes people realize they've become inconvenient. Amelia folded her hands. What exactly didn't happen? Her voice remained perfectly pleasant. Olivia glanced around the room. Nobody looked angry. Nobody raised their voice. Yet every face carried the same assumption. Waitress. Emotional. Confused. Replaceable. Isabella didn't cry because of a display, Olivia said quietly. One attorney sighed. Another checked his watch. Amelia tilted her head. You have a very compassionate imagination. The words landed harder than an insult. Olivia felt the weight of every eye measuring her credibility against Amelia's reputation. Then she picked up the pen. For one brief second several people visibly relaxed. Olivia turned the page over instead. Blank on the back. No supporting report. No witness statements. No timestamps. Nothing. Where's the incident log? She asked. Amelia's smile faltered. Just enough. Excuse me? If this is documentation, there should be a log number. Olivia placed the unsigned paper on the table. There isn't one. Nobody spoke. Across the room, the door opened. Gabriel Ashford stepped inside without announcement. The conversation stopped instantly. He said nothing. Amelia recovered first. We're simply handling administrative details. Gabriel's gaze moved once over the document, then to Olivia, then to Amelia. Nothing in his expression changed. Yet nobody resumed talking. Olivia noticed something else. The timestamp field at the bottom of the statement had already been filled in. 8:17 p.m. The report had been written before the incident it claimed to describe. The report had been written before the incident it claimed to describe. Nobody said that out loud. Not even Olivia. The realization simply settled into the room like dust after a collapse. Gabriel Ashford's gaze remained on the timestamp for several long seconds. Then he looked away. Not because it didn't matter. Because people like him had learned that the first person to react often lost the advantage. Amelia recovered beautifully. A clerical error, she said with a soft laugh. Someone probably copied the wrong template. A few heads nodded immediately. Relief moved through the room. People preferred mistakes to conspiracies. They preferred paperwork problems to moral ones. Olivia noticed that too. She also noticed Amelia never touched the document again. Not once. We're done here, Amelia said pleasantly. There's no reason to keep a server away from her duties. Server. Not Olivia. Not Ms. Harper. Just server. The room had already decided where she belonged. Olivia picked up the unsigned statement and placed it back on the table. I won't sign it. No anger. No speech. Just a fact. Then she left. The corridor outside felt colder than before. She could still hear muted conversations behind the closed door. Expensive voices discussing expensive problems. Her shift should have ended an hour ago. Instead, she found herself standing in the employee locker room beneath flickering fluorescent lights. Her old phone sat in her hand. The folded drawing rested beside it. She stared at both for a long moment before opening a small canvas lunch bag hidden at the back of her locker. Most people would have thrown it away weeks ago. She hadn't. Inside was a plastic visitor badge attached to a broken silver lanyard, a receipt, and a tiny flash drive wrapped in a napkin. Olivia closed her eyes briefly, then reopened them. Some secrets grew heavier every day they stayed hidden. 20 minutes later, she was crossing the service hallway when she found Gabriel standing alone beside a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city. Midnight lights stretched across the skyline. He didn't seem surprised to see her. You stayed. Olivia looked down at the items in her hand. So did you. Silence. Then she held out the visitor badge. I think you should see this. Gabriel took it without speaking. The plastic card was old, scratched, slightly cracked near one corner. Visitor Access Child Development Wing. Issued 6 months earlier. He turned it over. A barcode. An expiration date. Nothing remarkable. Then Olivia handed him the receipt. Coffee purchase. 2 drinks. 1 pastry. Dated the same day as the badge. Same location. Same timestamp. 8:17 p.m. Gabriel's eyes narrowed slightly. Why keep this? Olivia swallowed. Because the person using that badge wasn't supposed to be there. He said nothing. She continued. And because the receipt proves they were somewhere else at the exact same time. For the first time all night, Gabriel looked directly at her. Not through her. Not around her. Her. Olivia carefully placed the flash drive on the windowsill between them. I never opened it. Why not? The question came quietly. Because if it contained what I thought it contained. Her fingers tightened around the strap of her apron. Then I couldn't pretend I didn't know anymore. Gabriel picked up the flash drive. Small. Ordinary. Almost weightless. Yet he held it longer than seemed necessary. Then something shifted in his expression. Barely visible. A memory. Connection. He turned the visitor badge over once more and stared at the authorization signature printed at the bottom. Not Amelia's. Not a staff member's. The signature belonged to the man who had managed his family's foundation for 11 years. The man Gabriel trusted more than almost anyone. The man Gabriel trusted more than almost anyone. He said nothing after that. No visible reaction.
No sorpresa. No curse.
Just silence. The dangerous kind. The kind that settled over a room before someone realized the floor beneath them wasn't as solid as they thought. He slipped the visitor badge into his jacket pocket and took the flash drive with him. Olivia watched him leave through the service corridor without another word. For a moment she wondered if she had made a mistake. Then she remembered the bank deposit, the drawing, the unsigned report. Mistakes had already been made. She was simply done carrying them alone. Rain tapped softly against Gabriel's office windows after midnight. Manhattan glittered beyond the glass. His desk lamp cast a pool of amber light across contracts, donor reports, and foundation records. The flash drive sat beside a crystal tumbler untouched for nearly an hour. Across from him, his private attorney waited patiently. Marcus Levin had worked for the Ashford family for 15 years and understood better than most that Gabriel's silence usually meant he was thinking harder than everyone else in the room. The video files loaded slowly. Grainy security footage appeared. Hallways, offices, storage rooms, dates spanning months. Nothing obvious at first. Then Gabriel noticed something. Pause. Marcus stopped the video. Gabriel leaned forward. Back 10 seconds. The footage rolled again. A hallway outside the child development wing. Timestamp. 8:14 p.m. A woman crossed the frame. Amelia. 3 seconds later the screen skipped. Not glitched. Skipped. The recording resumed at 8:21 p.m. Exactly 7 missing minutes. Marcus frowned. That's deliberate. Gabriel said nothing. 7 minutes. The same 7 minutes nobody could account for. The same time attached to the drawing. The deposit. The report. The receipt. He reached for another folder. Employee access logs. Keycard entries. Visitor records. Hundreds of pages. Most people would have drowned in the details. Gabriel lived in details. He found the missing pattern within 20 minutes. Every access record for the child development wing remained intact. Except one. The entry tied to the visitor badge Olivia had kept. One name had been deleted. Not removed cleanly. Edited. Hidden. Someone had expected nobody to look closely. Marcus glanced over the paperwork. Want me to bring in investigators? Gabriel shook his head. Not yet. 2 words. Flat. Final. The attorney nodded immediately. Across town, Olivia sat alone in her small apartment kitchen. The television played softly in the next room where her nephew slept on the couch beneath a faded blue blanket. The refrigerator hummed. Rain tapped against the fire escape. Ordinary sounds. Safe sounds. She wrapped both hands around a mug of coffee gone cold hours earlier. On the table sat a stack of unpaid hospital invoices for her mother. Numbers circled in red. Final notices. Collections warnings. The kind of papers people used to make other people feel trapped. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then answered. Silence greeted her first. Breathing. Then a voice she recognized immediately. Amelia. You should have accepted the donation, Olivia. Click. The call ended. No threat. No raised voice. Somehow worse. Olivia stared at the dark screen for several seconds before opening her contacts and taking a screenshot of the call log. Then she emailed it to herself. Evidence. Just in case. Back at Ashford Manor, Gabriel opened one final personnel file. The foundation manager's employment history. 11 years of service. Impeccable reviews. Complete trust. His eyes moved to a recommendation letter signed years ago by Amelia Cross. He read it once, then again, and for the first time that night, Gabriel realized something that felt far more dangerous than a missing video or a falsified report. Every door he had trusted had been opened by the same person. Every door he had trusted had been opened by the same person. The realization followed Gabriel into the charity gala like a ghost. The ballroom shimmered beneath crystal chandeliers. Cameras flashed. Donors laughed over glasses of wine that cost more than most families spent on groceries in a week. At the center of it all stood Amelia Cross, elegant in midnight blue, accepting praise she had spent years carefully cultivating. Tonight's event celebrated children. Smiling photographs lined the walls. Success stories. Fundraising milestones. Hope framed in expensive silver. Olivia stood near the back of the room wearing the same black dress and white apron she had arrived in hours earlier. She looked out of place among silk gowns and tailored tuxedos. That was the point. People kept looking past her. They always had. The difference tonight was that she had stopped looking away. The presentation began. Amelia stepped onto the stage. Applause rolled through the ballroom. Everything we do is for the children, she said warmly. Every decision, every sacrifice. More applause. Then Gabriel stood. The room quieted instantly. He didn't walk to the stage right away. He simply looked around the ballroom. At the donors. At the trustees. At the photographs. At the foundation board. Finally at Amelia. Before we continue, he said, I'd like to show something. His voice was calm, almost gentle. A large screen behind the stage flickered to life. Amelia's smile held. Barely. Security footage appeared first. Grainy hallway video. Timestamp visible. 8:14 p.m. Amelia entering the child development wing. Then the screen jumped. 8:21 p.m. 7 missing minutes. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Amelia recovered immediately. A corrupted file, she said with a soft laugh. We've already discussed that. Gabriel didn't respond. Another image appeared. The visitor badge. The deleted access record. The authorization signature. Several board members exchanged uneasy looks. Amelia folded her hands. Administrative errors happen. Then Olivia stepped forward. Not onto the stage. Not dramatically. Just far enough that people could see her. She held something in both hands. The blue sketchbook. Isabella's sketchbook. The room grew quieter. Olivia opened it carefully. Page after page appeared on the screen. The same red hand. The same black keycard. The same hallway. Drawn again and again for months. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Children didn't document patterns unless they were trying to be understood. Amelia's expression tightened for the first time. She's a child, she said. Children imagine things. Olivia finally spoke. Then explain why she drew the time. Silence. Real silence. Olivia turned another page. The number 817 appeared beneath the red hand. The same timestamp as the deposit. The receipt. The report. The missing footage. No one laughed now. Gabriel nodded once. Marcus Levin pressed a key. Audio filled the ballroom. At first only static. Then voices. Amelia's voice. Clear. Sharp. Nothing like the warm tone she used for cameras. Sign it and stay quiet. A second. Voice. Olivia. Frightened but steady. Then the sound of a child crying in the background. The room froze. Amelia went pale. The recording continued. Threats disguised as concern. Pressure disguised as protection. Donations used as leverage. Hospital bills mentioned by name. By the time the audio ended, nobody was looking at the screen anymore. They were looking at Amelia. Gabriel wasn't looking at her either. He was looking at Isabella sitting beside her nanny. His daughter's eyes were fixed on the floor, as if she'd been carrying this weight alone for a very long time. The pain that crossed Gabriel's face lasted less than a second. But it was there. He had trusted the wrong people, signed the wrong reports, allowed lies to wear his name, allowed a child to speak through drawings because nobody listened when she was silent. Amelia opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Gabriel walked to the stage, picked up the visitor badge, set it on the podium with a quiet click that somehow sounded louder than applause. Then he looked toward Marcus Levin and spoke only 4 words. Call my attorney. Now. For a few seconds after Gabriel spoke, nobody moved. The visitor badge remained on the podium beneath the ballroom lights. Small, cracked, ordinary. Yet somehow it had become heavier than every crystal chandelier hanging overhead. Amelia stood frozen beside the stage. The confidence that had carried her through years of speeches and galas seemed to drain away inch by inch. Nobody rushed to defend her now. Nobody applauded. Nobody smiled. The board members who had once praised her quietly exchanged looks and began opening folders. Attorneys stepped aside to make phone calls. Donors suddenly found the floor fascinating. Power had not vanished. It had simply changed direction. By morning, Amelia was suspended from every position connected to the foundation. An independent investigation was announced. Financial records were frozen. The foundation manager resigned before noon and was later named in multiple falsified reports. Several board members who had signed documents without review were removed. The charity survived. The people who had twisted it did not. Gabriel made certain of that, not because he wanted revenge, because he refused to let children pay for adults' lies. 3 weeks later, Olivia sat in a conference room overlooking the same city she had once crossed before dawn to work double shifts. The room was quieter than the ballroom had been. More honest. Hospital invoices lay neatly stacked on the table. Her mother's medical debt had been reviewed by independent auditors. The pressure campaign tied to the foundation had been documented. Collections actions were withdrawn. Insurance coverage was restored. For the first time in years, nobody was using those bills as a leash. Olivia stared at the paperwork for a long moment, then folded it carefully and placed it inside her purse. She did not cry. She simply exhaled. Across from her, Gabriel slid another document forward. Read it. Olivia adjusted her glasses and looked down. It wasn't a donation agreement, not a settlement, not charity. It was an employment contract. Director of Child Advocacy Programs. Full authority to redesign how vulnerable children were monitored and protected within the foundation. She looked up immediately. There are people with better resumes. Gabriel nodded once. Probably. Then why me? He was quiet for several seconds. Because when everyone important was looking away, you weren't. Neither of them spoke after that. They didn't need to. Some truths arrived without decoration. A month later, Isabella stood in front of a classroom-sized art studio funded by the newly reorganized foundation. Sunlight spilled through tall windows. Children's drawings covered the walls. Some were messy, some brilliant. All of them mattered. Olivia had insisted on that. Every drawing kept, every concern documented, every child heard. Isabella carried the blue sketchbook beneath one arm. The same sketchbook. The one nobody had listened to until it became impossible to ignore. She stopped in front of Olivia and handed it over. Olivia opened it slowly. The old pages were still there. The red hand, the hallway, the fear, the timestamps, evidence disguised as crayons. Then she reached the final page. Her breath caught. There was no red hand anymore. No black keycard. No locked hallway. Just a drawing of several children sitting around a large table. In the center stood a woman with curly hair and a white apron. Smiling. Not serving. Leading. At the bottom, written in careful letters, were 4 words. She listened when others didn't. Olivia closed the sketchbook gently. Across the room, Gabriel watched without interrupting. He had spent years believing power came from being feared. Now he understood something different. Sometimes the strongest person in a room was the one everyone had mistaken for invisible. Later that evening, after the building emptied, Olivia hung a freshly cleaned white apron on a hook beside her office door. She kept it there on purpose. Not as a reminder of where she had been trapped. As a reminder of who she had always been. Her old phone rested in the top desk drawer beside the folded drawing from that night. Neither item would ever be thrown away. Outside, the city lights flickered against the windows. Inside, the office remained warm, safe, seen. Before leaving, Gabriel paused at the doorway. You could have taken the money and walked away. Olivia smiled faintly as she switched off the light. I didn't need money. What did you need? He asked it quietly. She looked once at the sketchbook resting on her desk. Then at the nameplate beside it. Olivia Harper. Spelled correctly. Earned honestly. Finally seen. For someone to listen. Gabriel said nothing after that. And in the silence that followed, it was clear that the truth had finally won. And the woman everyone once overlooked had at last been heard.